Good afternoon, Rotarians.
Hi, Jim.
Thank you for that warm greeting. Welcome to the first meeting of June of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. I'm your president, Tim Lilwitz, at least for this month anyway. Thanks to board member Scott Bennett for greeting today. Scott, thank you. And our own Leslie Schaefer is here today, and I'm sure her speech and the work of the Red Cross will be inspirational enough. So we don't have a moment of inspiration today, and we have some things to get to. So I'm going to lead us here in the Pledge of Allegiance, the four-way test, and we will greet other Rotarians. So please stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In the four-way test.
Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
So greet your fellow Rotarians.
It must be like a timeout. It's starting to come through. It must be on a timer.
I'm Cindy. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
You have a good time.
Yes, definitely enough.
Well, I know. But I noticed it last week too. I wonder if it does. Because I know the whole thing doesn't cut out, but I'm like, I wonder if you have to open it when it doesn't. I don't know. I don't know the program well enough.
Awesome. How'd you like it? It's so wonderful. What's your last name? It's so many people. People ask them to do this question. There's 30,000. It's always been that. How are you doing? Yes, living an update. I'm very excited. It's always fun to be here. Yeah, I just I'm very, very, very grateful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Yes, nice to see you.
Oh, I thought he said he passed on.
All right.
Let's do it.
We have a packed agenda today, so we'll get started with greeting our couple guests that we have, like we do every week. Guests, go ahead. I know there's just two of you, but go ahead and stand, and we'll greet you together at the end. First, we have in the back Mike Herding from the visiting Rotarian from the West Des Moines Club is here with us. And then Sydney Parker is a guest of the club. She's one of our past local scholarship recipients, and you'll hear from Sydney here in a few minutes. So thank you to both. We do have a birthday in the house today, and I know he is here. It's someone who we all know, and well, we all know him. That's all I can say. So, Greg Edwards, happy birthday.
89.
That was close. Drinks look great.
Yeah. Thank you. We have a couple of table flyers. I didn't grab one before I came up here, but they're on your table. Thank you to Eric Obergfell for sponsoring the first one with the $50 donation to our Rotary Club of Des Moines Foundation. Eric is a board member of Community Support Advocates, which is launching the Open Books series, a quarterly conversation designed to make mental health support more transparent, understandable, and human. The series shares lived experiences from people connected to mental health system to help deepen community understanding. So as you see in the flyer, they have please join them on Thursday, June 25th from 4:30 to 6 for first session. And that first session will feature our own Christina Smith as one of the storytellers. So sharing her experience as a parent. So if you're interested in that, please follow up with Eric or Christina. And then our second table flyer today is sponsored by Marnie Hockenberg, who I know is not here, but she is sponsoring, this is for a social evening at the newly restored Ingersoll Theater on Friday, June 12th. And it features live music from the Soul Searchers, along with dinner and access to the nearby Greenwood Lounge. So there are details on your flyer, and if you're interested, you can contact Amy Bergmeyer, I believe is how you say it, directly with the information that's on the flyer and reserve a spot. So thanks for Marnie for sponsoring that opportunity with our club. All right. We have Where in the World is Club 27 next. And as you know, this is a tribute to Club 27 we are the 27th Rotary Club founded in the world of over 34,000 clubs. Kitty, do you have those? All right. So first, we have a couple from Dick Stauffer. Him and his wife Peggy took a trip on Route 66 recently. And the first stop is in Seattle, Washington. And as you see, combining two of Dick's passions, Rotary and grocery. So, thank you, Dick, for that picture. And then he sent us another one, and he's in Winslow, Arizona. And at the bottom down there, you see that Dick's attended the Rotary Club of Winslow, Arizona's meeting. And
I was just standing on the corner.
well, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. You're stealing my thunder, Dick. But he attended the meeting, and that Rotary Club was founded in 1923, and the car you see in those photographs was their centennial celebration. So it was a car that was unveiled in 2023 to celebrate their century of service. So, like you said, Dick, you were obviously standing on a corner when you took that picture. Was there a girl in a flatbed Ford who drove by and looked at you?
Right.
No?
Such a fine sight to see.
Did you tell Peggy if there was? All right. And then the next one we have is President-elect Josh Braby and his wife Kaylee snuck in a trip to Alice, I think it's how you say it, Alice, Florida, before his year as president begins in exactly 25 days, 11 hours, and 40 minutes. But who is counting? So a reminder, if you're going somewhere fun, like those two, send a picture into Kitty, and we'll post it to the club. All right. No groans, but no Rotary Law and Disorder today, because we've got a new member introduction, and we want to be respectful to our speaker. So it's my pleasure next to introduce one of our new members, David Lewis. So David, why don't you come on up and stand awkwardly next to me for the next 2 minutes while I explain all these questions. So as is tradition, we asked, or actually, let me give you his background first, and then we'll get into the 5 questions. David is originally from Ottumwa, Iowa. He earned his bachelor's degree in economics and a second bachelor's degree in environmental policy from the University of Iowa. Go Hawks. He has worked in energy efficiency and energy management consulting across several firms, and later founded his own company focused on helping small and medium-sized businesses access incentives and tax strategies related to buildings and energy use. He is currently 1 course away from completing his MBA at the University of Iowa, and outside of work and school, he enjoys spending time with his friends and family and with his 2 cats, Mortimer and Junebug. Should have brought them today. Again, tradition is that we ask David the 5 questions, and the first one, you've got a free day, what we find you doing. David said he has a wonderful Sunday evening tradition with a group of friends. They have all been together since middle school, and David loves to connect with them, eat, play board games, and see a movie or go bowling. The second question, where in the world have you traveled and can't wait to go back? David has traveled to Europe, Japan, Hawaii, in 34 states. He would love to go back to Japan and add in South Korea as a side stop while he's at it. So, sounds like a fun trip. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? Show up fully in whatever you do. Be present in the present. Just try, you will fail, but be persistent and try something else and you'll end up getting it right soon enough. What talent or skill do you possess that might surprise or delight people? David says whether he is considered talented or not, he does enjoy singing. So you can start up the tradition of singing next year when Josh takes over. And then finally, we have David answer the fifth question from the microphone. You are joining the Rotary Club of Des Moines. What can't you wait to tell your friends and family about our organization?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, and I wanted to specifically thank Susan Judkins and Katie Morehouse here for bringing me into the group. Des Moines has been a bit of an adoptive community for me, and everybody has been so welcoming. I've really appreciated it. I can't wait to tell my friends and family about all we do and giving back to this adopted community. I've felt so welcomed and been able to participate locally, but I want to be able to give back now, and so I think the Rotary is going to be a great way to do that. I appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you, David. We're glad you're part of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. Next, as I teased earlier, we are going to hear from Sydney Parker. Sydney is a Lincoln High School graduate and a current University of Iowa student, and is here to share an update on her academic journey. Sydney knows me and Bob and Josh because me, Bob, and Josh were her interviewees for the scholarship award. So, Sydney, why don't you come up and share with us what's going on?
Hello, thank you all for welcoming me back here. As a starving college student, I will say the food was much appreciated and the quality, chef's kiss. Thank you all for welcoming me back here to give you an update on my progress at the University of Iowa. I'm so grateful to have been recognized with this scholarship over 2 years ago. Time flies. And I cannot even begin to express how much of a weight has been lifted from me with this scholarship. College, as I'm sure a lot of you know, is not cheap. And this has made looking at my university bill a much less stressful experience. So I'm very grateful. And the last time I spoke with you, I expressed my plan to major in political science with a minor in theater arts, and I have since changed it to a double major in political science and journalism with a minor in African American studies. I can still be caught listening to musicals as I traverse the Pentacrest, but I do want to shift my focus to something that will help me build my career. And as a career, I would like to do political journalism or nonprofit communications. In class, I've learned revelations that have shifted my career trajectory and my worldview. My first semester, I took a class under the political science department called Intro to the Politics of Race, where through 3 books, the professor brought us from the 19th century to the modern day, specifically looking at systems of racial oppression. And this class, under the Understanding Cultural Perspectives general education requirement, has been targeted in the last legislative session. This class has helped me better understand my processes and intent behind the society, and it has also helped me generate more thorough viewpoints when I'm writing and see disparities in everyday interactions. Outside of class, I like to keep very busy, which I'm sure is not a surprise to those of you who remember me from 2 years ago. I'm a member of the honors program, and I got to live in honors housing my first year, which is where I made some of my best friends that I still keep in contact with today. I'm also an honors outreach ambassador, where we take a course on how to promote the honors program both internally and externally through giving tours, tabling, paneling, running events, and stuff like that. And in the fall, I will be a TA for the course. I'm also very highly involved in student organizations. This year, I will be returning to my role as president of Ignite, which is an organization that involves women and non-binary people in politics. And I will also be returning to my role of vice president for the Undergraduate Political Science Association. In that organization, we get younger students typically involved in departmental resources, and we've also been known to host a campaign speaker or 2. Last year, I was the digital lead for the National Association of Black Journalists, Unity chapter, where I ran our social media, so I was always at the front lines with the phone trying to get some vertical video to post on Reels. I also helped create our brand new talk show, The Pulse, where I hosted the mayor of Iowa City on a pressing conversation about immigrations and customs enforcement in Iowa City. We also have a publication that comes out twice a year, where I've written articles about abortion access in Black and lower income communities, race bending in film, and African American vernacular English, with more to come out in the fall. This year, I will be assuming the role of president of the organization. On top of all that, I work part-time in student wellness,
where I promote the department through outreach and I write articles outlining harm reduction practices. I've also managed to maintain a 4.0 GPA. Last summer, I had my first internship with the National Senior Games Association. I'd never heard of this organization before I applied, but the experience was so much more incredible than I ever could have imagined. Through 15 long, underlined long days, I got to meet the most amazing athletes and tell the most amazing stories as their communications and content creation intern. It was an experience I will never forget, and I got to meet people from all walks of life. This summer, I'm the communications intern for the Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation just down the street, so if you see me looking lost in the skywalk around lunchtime, you can stop and say hi. I've only been in my position for about 3 weeks now, but it's opened doors for me that I never would have thought possible. Last week we went to Spring Branch Creek in northeast Iowa, and I got to do lots of new things for the first time, including flying a drone and even going fly fishing. No, I didn't catch anything, and I don't really know what I would have done if I did, but it was good for content creation. At the Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation, I write articles for their magazine, for their blog, I run social media, and I manage the Hagee campaign for their award that they give out annually. When I was here 2 years ago, I shared how important representation was to me. This is more true than ever after being at the University of Iowa for 2 years. Resources have been taken away from people of color, and the loss of the African American Studies major was gutting. I've absolutely loved being a college student, but the opportunities unfolding before me have been so fantastic, but the closure of spaces for students of color is really discouraging. Luckily for me, I have made a beautiful group of friends who have supported me through this, and they have made my college experience absolutely unforgettable. Once again, I cannot begin to express my gratitude for being awarded this honor, and I'm, like you all, I'm dedicated to making higher education a space that's more accessible, equitable, and valuable. And thank you so much for welcoming me back here today.
Thank you, Sydney. Our club is honored to support you through the Rotary Club Scholarship, and it's clear you're obviously making the very most of those opportunities. So, thanks for coming in and telling us about your journey, and of course, stay in touch because we'd love to see what happens in the future. If maybe you'll even end up back here in Des Moines. So, we invite you to join our club then if you do so. All right. With all that out of the way, Jake Unruh, who is a board member at the Red Cross, will now introduce our keynote speaker for today. Jake.
Good afternoon. Our speaker today is Leslie Schaefer, Executive Director of the Northern and Central Iowa chapter of the American Red Cross and a member of our Rotary Club. Leslie brings more than 30 years of leadership experience with the American Red Cross, serving in executive roles across Iowa, Nevada, South Dakota, and the Western United States. Throughout her career, she has led disaster response efforts, strengthened community partnerships, advanced mission impact and inclusion initiatives, and helped develop the next generation of nonprofit leaders. In addition to her Red Cross leadership, Leslie has worked internationally with the Indonesia Red Cross Society and serves as a state relations liaison, coordinating with elected officials and community leaders across Iowa. Today, Leslie will be sharing her insights on leadership, disaster response, and the power of community partnerships in times of crisis and recovery. Please join me in welcoming Leslie Schaefer.
So it's taking me 20 years to get here, just so you know. I've been a member 20 years, and today's the day. Yay, thank you for that. And Kitty, I don't know that I turned this on. Oh, we'll see. Now, there are so many things that I could have talked to you about. We have some flyers on the table for you to consider, including a history here in Polk County of the Red Cross. And, you know, I could have spent a lot of time talking about that because I love that stuff, and I also never want to follow Sydney again. You are fabulous. I mean, I could have listened to you forever. But what we're going to talk about is my leadership experience and kind of almost how I got through it. And maybe, Sydney, this will inspire you a little bit along the way. So my journey started in Oregon. I was born and raised in Oregon, was a Red Cross volunteer from the very beginning of time. Actually, my mother was. So I got taken along for a long time. How many people know how to swim? Yes, thank you very much. That's the Red Cross at work. So awesome. I was a lifeguard, I was a swim instructor, CPR, first aid, all of that. I then went on to North Carolina after graduating from Oregon State and Washington State. In North Carolina, I was at Duke, and I ended up really teaching CPR first aid classes in Durham. Then we were on to Chicago, where I continued my work with the Red Cross as a volunteer. And I was with the YWCA in Chicago. Then I went to South Dakota. My life turned around in South Dakota, believe it or not. Not many people say that. But that was where I experienced disaster for the first time. So the small town we were living in was flooded. And I was CPR, I was first aid, I was still swimming, I was all of that. But there was a knock on our door over the 4th of July holiday, and it was the emergency manager from the county. And he looked at me and he said, "You're the Red Cross, right?" And I said, "Well, yeah, CPR, first aid." He goes, "We need a shelter open." And I said, "Yeah, I don't do that." And he said, "You do now." And he dropped the keys in my hand and turned around and walked off my porch, and I went, "Wait, I have no idea what you're talking about." But I did know who to call. And that was kind of my first experience in disaster relief, so I was kind of thrown in the deep end of the pool. But from that, I went to Reno, Nevada, spent some time in Reno, and then I was the deputy regional officer in Las Vegas. And then we were going through transition, things were changing in the Red Cross, and I was looking for a field position, and Des Moines opened up. And some of you may know Tom Stanberry. Tom Stanberry hired me to come. And I moved here, and I joined Rotary, and it's been an amazing journey. But I want to talk about the most recent experiences that I've had. Greenfield, Minden, some of you probably know about Minden, Northwest Iowa flooding, also Eastern Kentucky, I deployed over there, and then we had a tornado in Fargo, and it went through rural North Dakota and Minnesota, so just always on the move as far as deployments are concerned. So we'll see if this works. It doesn't know. Okay. Oh shoot. This was supposed to be one of those where I asked the group a question, right? But I was gonna pick on Graham and say, "Okay, Graham, tell me, why is managing disaster response so difficult?"
Well, I can think of 1,000 reasons why it's difficult, right? I mean,
Stick with the list.
I think the coordination of multiple agencies is a difficult thing.
Thank you. That is the hardest. It really is. It can get very complex. People get very territorial, and it gets confusing. So, next slide. I'm gonna grab some. I knew this was gonna happen. This is like one of the most nerve-wracking times for me. It really is. You know, coming here for 20 years and never being the speaker, and then being the speaker, it's tough. It's not easy.
You should be president. It's terrible.
No, thank you. So, leading through uncertainty, you know, we have so many more intense disasters now. We have a changing political landscape. We're not certain how FEMA is going to be funded, how FEMA is going to come through at the federal level. And so that makes it really complicated in the disaster landscape. This picture happens to be Greenfield shortly after. There's a public pressure, there's a lot of emotional exhaustion. As people go through disaster after disaster, it gets to be very rough. And as far as leadership practices, it really is about keeping a clear mind, even in uncertain times. being able to communicate a lot, both up, down, sideways, horizontal, all over the place to gather your information. Next, thank you. So I'm trained in meta leadership, which is probably a framework that people are familiar with. But what I really try and focus on is bringing people together of different voices. So getting the partners to the table and really understanding what is going on in the community and understanding what resources we can bring together. Because it is so complex, everyone needs to be engaged. Next. I want to take you through what it looks like for a disaster relief operation, and Becky's here. And Becky understands this with mobilizing volunteers. It really is the key to every disaster relief operation. We are 90% volunteer for the Red Cross. And so we depend on trained volunteers to lead the process. And when I deploy, I'm paid staff, but I don't know if the person I'm reporting to is a volunteer or a paid staff person. We're just out there helping, right? And so the different core functions of the Red Cross relief operation, sheltering, feeding, distribution of emergency supplies, health and mental health services, damage assessment, we've got disaster casework and recovery planning all happening within the system. But let's talk about the support functions. So this is all the background work that is getting done when we deploy in a disaster. And so all of these things are happening. Probably GovOps, government operations, state EOC, county EOC presence, elected official liaison, and of course public affairs, fundraising, and community engagement and partners, all happening at the same time. And I put the arrow there because I'm going to take you on a trip through elected officials and how it functions. So for me, I work in this space quite a bit. This is actually a picture of me on a ferry coming off of Sanibel Island in Fort Myers, or off the coast of Fort Myers. And elected officials are so incredibly important in the mix because they really are the influencers of public confidence. If they have heartburn about what's happening on a relief operation, it can throw everything into a tizzy and really complicate things very quickly. And what they're looking for is accurate information. They want to know what's happening. And so we have to go in with very clear messaging and actionable information. What do we want them to do to help us? And if we can put that package together, we can pretty much solve any problem that we have. Go for it. So let me take you through Hurricane Ian. Some of you may remember Hurricane Ian. It was the second most destructive hurricane in Florida. It happened September 2022. Go ahead, sorry. I just hate that I don't
Just
have
click at me.
control.
Click at me, just point at me.
So this is the path of Hurricane Ian. Now, before this path was set, it was going to go through Tampa, or south of Tampa, north of Fort Myers, and it took a wobble. They weren't expecting that wobble. Who was, right? But certainly not the people in Fort Myers and Fort Myers Beach. So go ahead. And this is what happened. So we ended up with over 200,000 homes affected in this area. We had, well, I kind of went in there with a bias, okay? I thought, oh, these are people living in Florida. They're rich. They've got really nice homes and everything. I found out that that wasn't the case in this area. These were people who had saved a lot of money, had put almost all of their retirement, if not all of it, into a home. And it might have been a mobile home. And it was gone. And they had nothing. Because maybe they didn't have insurance. That was always a possibility. And so housing was like one of the biggest issues, as it always is in disaster. But if you can imagine 200,000 homes impacted, it was a huge housing crisis in the area. So go ahead. This is our shelter. So this shelter was opened, and if you know the area, it's about 2 miles maybe inland from the beach, across the interstate. And this is the Hertz Arena. It was originally an evacuation center, and it was turned into a shelter. That's tough. Because the people who gave permission to use the property did not intend it to be used as a shelter. And when you have 1,000 people in there, you really can't move them out. And you've got, serious housing issues. So the Red Cross came in and took over. And we were able to extend it into a long-term shelter, which was going on a month later after when I left. Go ahead. So these are just some photos. These are photos of the entire, or of some of the relief operation. This is the Red Cross in the field. We were stocking a shelter. This was one of the other shelters. We have distribution of emergency supplies going. We do the tarps, the totes, the shovels, the rakes, the gloves, all of those kind of things where people can come and get those. And then over on the bottom right is the mobile feeding. And the picture you see, it was a terrible bad hair day, and I debated as to whether I was gonna use this picture or not. But this is Lieutenant General Russell Honore, who was the commander of the task force, Katrina. And he came by, and that's another part of my job sometimes when I'm on an operation, is to manage VIPs. So he stopped by the shelter to see how things were going. So there you go. But my mission was to gain access to Sanibel Island. Sanibel was totally cut off. There were people on the island. They refused to leave. The city government had moved to the mainland. They were really trying to get people off the island because there wasn't going to be access to the island for probably 30 days. But people did not want to leave. This was their home. It might have been a 1-bedroom condo on Sanibel Island. And people were pretty determined to stay where they were. So they didn't want Red Cross coming onto the island to provide relief items, because that would encourage people to stay. They wanted to make it uncomfortable enough. But we were getting calls of people who needed help on the island. They still had fire and rescue on the island, but once you left the island, you couldn't get back on. So I spent about 5 days negotiating with the government, with the city government, and with the county to try and convince them to allow Red Cross onto the island. And what we were looking for was the golden ticket, as we called it. And you could only get over to the island on a ferry, and you had to have the golden ticket to get on the ferry. And so, go ahead and this was the causeway. You may remember that. This was going to be at least a 30-day repair. And that was the only way you could get trucks, tractors, whatever, onto the island. Go ahead. So, yay, I scored 6 golden tickets. So we were able to lead a team onto Sanibel. We could only walk, like you had golf carts kind of running around, but we didn't have access to a golf cart. But these are just some of the pictures of Sanibel as we got there. And it was the beginning of the relief effort for the Red Cross on Sanibel. So that was done because elected officials finally opened the door for us after convincing them that we really needed to have that presence. Go ahead. As part of my job too, I make contact with partners who are doing the really great work. Rotary was there doing some really great work. They had a shelter trailer, and that was awesome. And then the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is almost always mobilizing, doing really great work. They just sent out 1,200 volunteers into the field to just do cleanup in one day. Yeah, they were organizing. They are really great at organizing volunteers. Go ahead. So this is what I really wanted to bring to this group and kind of have us consider, what is our role in disaster? These are some of the things that Rotary does. And certainly the disaster grants are an important part of what Rotary is doing. Volunteer mobilization, long-term recovery is incredibly important and is a natural fit for Rotary to be involved in. Go ahead. There are so many advantages to have planning done ahead of time. So this is important that organizations be prepared to respond because something will happen. It isn't a matter of if it will happen, it's when it will happen. And these are all ways that we have a shared mission between Rotary and the Red Cross. Go ahead, sorry. And these are just some examples that I could find of Rotary mobilizing during disaster in the last few years. So hurricanes Helene and Milton in North Carolina, huge issues going on in North Carolina. And we had Rotaries clubs mobilizing throughout the area. Go ahead. Texas Hill Country flooding, again, the mucking out, the debris removal, the roof tarping, and the meal preparation, all important things that Rotary was doing on the ground in the Hill Country. Go ahead. Internationally, we have the Shelter Box International, which I think we're probably all familiar with. It is done domestically also, but it is that emergency shelter when no other options are out there. So really important partnerships could be had that way. And I just want to, in closing, I really just want to have us consider as a club, what are we going to do when disaster strikes? How are we going to respond? Can we have a conversation ahead of time? Can we kind of have a plan in place ahead of time so that we can connect to the community resources like the Red Cross that are going to be out in the field doing some of the work and make our community stronger. So that's it. 20 years later. Oh yes, thank you, Graham.
Leslie, following up on your closing comment, a lot of us don't think about the Red Cross until the disaster hits.
Right.
And then often people give money in the wake of a disaster. But could you talk a little bit about the things that Red Cross does, Heroes of the Heartland, to bring attention to good work and raise money, how people become a volunteer, basically how can people on a daily basis help the Red Cross be prepared?
Sure. First of all, thank you for raising the issue of funding, because we are not a government organization, we are not affiliated with the government, we're independent from the government, we do not receive government funding. So with that aside, we do fundraising, of course, locally here. We do it at the state level. Erlyn is the chair of our Heroes of the Heartland breakfast. That's our biggest fundraiser, our only real fundraiser in the community. Otherwise, a number of the corporations, I mean, I see Todd here, Nationwide is a huge supporter of the American Red Cross, and I know Newman Brothers is a supporter of the Red Cross. I'm probably missing people along the way, but you know, those are the corporate giving and the individual giving is what makes our work possible.
Do you get United Way funding?
We do not.
You do not? Why?
We do not.
Why is that?
We, you know, probably have someone from United Way talk about it, but no, I mean, it's a fair question. I would say we no longer fit in their pillars, okay? So there is not a safety net pillar anymore in United Way.
So that's the excuse I can give to politicians, you no longer fit in my pillar.
If it works for you, that's awesome, yeah.
One is a question and one is a comment. You mentioned Sanibel, Iowa. People in Des Moines need to know the connection of Ding Darling.
Ding Darling, yes, you saw the Ding Darling preserve, yeah.
My comment, being question, you said you work with other, and you work with Hope out of Springfield, Missouri. The Hope Industries that go around, they're now working in where those people are starving to death because of the disease.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with a formal relationship with Hope Industries, yeah. Yes.
Leslie, we waited 20 years to hear from you, and it was worth it.
Oh, thank you.
You did a nice job.
Thank you.
So you've seen or read or learned of what Rotary clubs in other markets, other communities have done.
Mhm.
If you were president-elect now, and getting the gavel, let's think about best practices. What would you recommend to this club? A nexus of people getting together to think about what we do? Maybe there's something in the works that we don't know about. What would you challenge us to do, think about?
Exactly that. I would say come together, let's decide what we're gonna do. What is our interest in that space? I think through community service committee maybe, there could be conversations and having a pillar around disaster response and community services might be the way to go. There are so many different ways that we can do it, but like I said, please do it now and not during the disaster.
Perhaps
That's where it
with
gets
other
really
clubs,
complex.
Perhaps with other clubs in the bedroom.
Right. It would be awesome to get a metro-wide plan going. That would be awesome.
Sydney could be our communications person.
Sydney would be our communications person. I've already talked to her about volunteering for the Red Cross, by the way. So, yes, Tom.
Just a follow-up to David's comment, you know, there is money available from the district as well. If this club wanted to do a district grant, we could get up to $7,500 to put towards whatever initiative that we'd like to do to support this. So,
There's just so much to be said about resilience and having resilient communities, because the more resilient your community is, which means your ability to recover, it is about having that strong resilience. That is what's gonna shorten your recovery time. And that's what you want. You want businesses back up and running, you want people back to work, you want schools open. And if you've got a long recovery runway, you're gonna be in a economic situation for a lot longer. So it does get to be an it's a huge economic issue.
You've done an excellent presentation, Leslie.
Thank you, John.
And I'm concerned or interested in how you are dispatched to different parts of the country. You've obviously been to many parts of the country. And what are the parameters of where you may go or be sent? And if you go in response to somebody's orders, who is giving the orders?
That's a very great question. We actually deploy somewhat like the military, so we're trained to very specific positions. And so as the need in that area comes up, and we have a whole national system for identifying that, but we have a framework. So if it's going to be a large disaster where we have 1,000 homes impacted or 2,000 homes impacted, we kind of rate it that way by what is the damage to homes, because that we're the humanitarian response. So we're concerned about people and their homes and their ability to live, where the government is concerned about that, but more concerned, but they focus on infrastructure and kind of economic recovery. So all of that to say, we get trained into very specific positions, and then your position is deployed, and you land in that area, and you don't know who you're going to report to until you get to operations headquarters, and figure, but the system is in place. So it's very efficient. It's, it's a well-established old system. It's been working for many years, but we've got some awesome technology behind it now. Yeah.
So with the questions with FEMA funding, what is is there some risk that the public's gonna rely on Red Cross beyond the means that are really, beyond its ability?
That is the current thinking, that right at this point in time, the Red Cross is uncertain as to, we know we're gonna, our role may grow. We don't know what it's gonna look like yet. But it's probably more of a scale up rather than an addition to doing something. Does that make sense? Where you're scaling up your services rather than creating something new. We're just waiting to see kind of the FEMA advisory panel has developed a report, and it's going through its final review right now. So we'll see. We're waiting for hurricane season. By the way, hurricane season started June 1. Are we out of time?
We got one more question if you want.
Okay. And I was looking at Kitty's face. She was like, oh, ah. No. So anyway,
Don't ask me, ask Kitty.
we don't know what hurricane season is going to look like this year with FEMA and the response. And some states have much more capacity. Like Florida has a lot more capacity within their state system to respond than we do here in Iowa. Yeah.
Leslie, thank you for your presentation.
Yeah.
I am curious, so educate me. Here in Iowa, we don't have hurricanes. We're lucky enough. But what types of disasters do we have the most here in Iowa?
The one that we respond to the most is single family fires, right? So we have a cadre, kind of getting back to Graham's question, we have a cadre of volunteers who are trained to respond when someone's home is burned down. So you'll see on our infographic some of our stats there.
Thank you, Leslie.
You bet. It's a desert up here.
Thank you, Leslie, for a great program this week. And first of all, thank you for being a 20-year member of the Rotary Club of Des Moines and sharing your work as the Executive Director of the American Red Cross here in Iowa. We appreciate you highlighting those similarities between the two organizations and reminding us that service is at the heart of both of them, and it's a great reminder of the impact that both organizations make. So thank you again. Upcoming speakers next week, Randy Wayhofer from the general manager for the Iowa Cubs will be here. to update us on summer baseball. June 18th, Amy Jennings, Executive Director at Lead DSM, will be here. And then on June 25th, Josh, passing of the gavel, and Michael Eagle, the Artistic Director of the Des Moines Metro Opera, will also be here to present his short program. So if you know anyone, as I say every week, if you know anyone that you think would be interested, please bring them along as a guest and introduce them to our club. And then we also have, as we remind you every week, upcoming fellowship opportunities. We have Thursday, June 11th, pickleball from 4 to 6 at Valley View Park in West Des Moines. See Sam Sodders for more information. Thursday, June 25th, the Bourbon Club Walk we've been talking about, and it's a guided tasting of spirits here in Iowa, and there'll be more information. I think it was in this week's newsletter, right? Next week's?
Last week's.
Oh, last week's. I'm sorry, last week's newsletter. So go check that out if you still have it, or reach out to Kitty and she'll provide you the same. And then Saturday, July 11th, Prairie Meadows Rotary Day at the races. Again, there'll be more information coming on that soon. Our last morning fuel of this year, if you're interested, next Tuesday morning, June 9th, featuring Susan Scharnberg at Freedom Blend Coffee on Hickman. And I think that's all of the upcoming events. So thank you again for being with us today and being a vital part of the Rotary Club Des Moines. Sydney, thanks again for being here. Keep up the great work. Go Hawks. David, welcome to Rotary. And until next week, stay true to the good. We are adjourned.